The eufy S1 Pro was one of the first and best roller mopping systems out on the market, but that was a year and a half ago, back in 2024, and it was pretty good except for it did have some limitations. For instance, it couldn't mop the edge and it couldn't sweep the corners because it didn't have an extendable brush arm. But eufy has been listening to us, and a year and a half later, they have now released the eufy Omni S2 that potentially will solve both those issues. In today's video, I'm going to tell you why I'm saying potentially, because yes, it has the hardware that can do it, but unfortunately they still have some work to do. So without further ado, let's jump in the video. First things first, I do want to thank eufy for sending this out to me for a full honest review, but this is not sponsored in any other way, as I do not allow any other types of sponsorships on any of my channels. Now first, let's talk about the new hardware and some of the features that are built into this new Omni S2, and then I'm going to talk about why they still have some work to do. Now the eufy Omni S2 features a roller mop that runs almost the entirety of the width of the vacuum itself at almost 12 inches, and it has the HydroJet 2.0 system that will jet clean water onto the roller mop, and as it scrubs, it will take that wastewater and put it into its own dirty water reservoir that's built into the robot itself, and puts downward pressure onto the hardware floor at 15 newtons. In addition, the S2 can now extend out to the right 15 millimeters, so as it's getting close to the baseboards, it will extend that mop out to the baseboard itself and clean all the edges. And as you can see in this footage, you can probably tell they have some work to do, which I'll talk more about in just a moment. Secondly, they still have the dual side brushes, which is nice to see, and they've redesigned it to have what they call a two-claw design. That's supposed to be anti-tangle, so hair doesn't get stuck around the side brushes. In addition, that right side brush can now extend out, that they call corner over, so it would do better cleaning in corners. But they still have some work to do, as you can see in this footage. Thirdly, they've replaced the main brush head. Instead of the standard brush head, they have a dual spiraling rotating brushes now. That's better to prevent hair tangles. As it sucks in any hair, it will force that hair to the center, and as you can see between, there's an opening, and it will fall into the suction where it gets sucked up into the onboard dustbin. Now in my testing of this anti-tangle features, yes, it did suck it towards the middle, but maybe I did too much hair and it actually got stuck in the middle. Now when I did send it back to the base station to get sucked out of the robot, it actually did suck it out of that middle part, though in reality it did prevent tangles. It just needed to go back and get a little bit more suction power from the main base. And talking about suction power, the original S1 Pro had only 8,000 pascals of suction, and now this new S2 has up to 30,000 pascals of suction. Now this number does sound like a massive increase of power, which it definitely does have, but in reality doesn't mean that you're always going to get a better cleaning the higher the number is. I have vacuums that are 8 to 10,000 pascals that does just as well in my testing. Now I did do a vacuum test with 100 grams of sand, and I ran the vacuum on max and ran on low power carpet, and on the first pass it picked up 64 grams, which is only 64%, and then I allowed it to do a second pass where it picked up additional 17 grams. So in those two passes, it only got a score of 81%. Now all this sand got sucked up into the onboard storage bin, which they've redesigned to a Cyclone technology. Now this really is cool to see. You've seen these Cyclone vacuums in other smart vacuums, but mostly in the base station and not in the onboard storage bin on the vacuum itself. Although I do remember one about a year ago on the eufy E20. Now, one thing that they did in this vacuum, they made the lid to this smart vacuum kind of semi-clear so you can actually see that bin. You can see the dirt swirling around, and when it's on regular standard mode, it would be blue, and when you have it on max mode, they turn on this purple light. Now, it's really nice to see all this dirt getting picked up and swirled around, but in all honesty, it's just a show. Plus, they've added some aroma therapy, which are just little triangular cartridges that you can add to your vacuum that will add some scent to the exhaust of the vacuum itself, and they smell pretty good. They're not overbearing, and frankly, unless you're in the room with the vacuum as it's vacuuming, you're not going to smell it afterwards. It just adds a little bit of scent to that exhaust, which is a nice touch, but it's just another item that you're going to have to replace if you actually want to use them. Plus, eufy now has a liftable chassis, so you have transitions in your house between maybe carpets or maybe two different rooms. It now can lift up the chassis and get between those. It has a rating of a single transition up to 35 millimeters and a double transition up to 42 millimeters. And in my testing, I did single transitions of 13 millimeters and 20 millimeters, but it failed the 33 millimeter single transition. But when I made it into a double transition of 33 millimeters, it had no problems whatsoever getting over it. Also noticed the vacuum when it transitioned from the hardwood floor to my rugs, no matter if it was the low pile or high pile carpet, it definitely lifted up and got onto the carpet itself. Now, the roller mop, it does lift up 15 millimeters, but if you have high pile carpets, just be aware that it can still get those high pile carpets wet. So I would avoid carpets altogether if you have high pile carpets and you're mopping at the same time. And this is the first smart vacuum that I've seen that can detect and avoid tassels or fringes on rugs and will avoid going on them. And in my testing, I tested this for weeks and I've never seen it touch those tassels at all, except for one minor time that it did go down on a tassel, but other than that, it avoided them altogether, and the way it got up and down these rugs was on the clear and even side, which is a great feature to have because tassels are definitely a thing that can get sucked up and stop the vacuum from working. So whatever AI, 3D mapping, time of flight sensors, camera sensors, whatever this thing has built into it is pretty good, but it's also has its limitations, which leads to some of the cons I have with this, which we'll get into in just a second. But it has all these new sensors, which is different than the S1 Pro, as it does have a built-in camera, which you cannot access from the app. It also has a time of flight sensor and some other sensors. They all combine to call the Clean Mind AI. And when it came to obstacle avoidance, the new S2 did really well, just as well as the S1 Pro, but where it failed is its spatial awareness. Sometimes it did not get up along the edge close enough for that extendable mop to get along the edge, and sometimes it didn't get into the corners enough, or it backed out of corners because of its spatial awareness. In addition, it backed into a lot of things, and for some reason it just doesn't know how close it is to things or how high things are. Now, I have brought this up to eufy and they said they will be working on this and will have it fixed by the time the official release is. Unfortunately, I can't report on that. I can only report on my own testing. So definitely leave me a comment down below, or check out the comment section or description down below to see if I've updated since then, and I'll let you know my experience. But as you saw in this video, there was times it did not go under cabinets or get close to the edge because of that spatial awareness. And now quickly, let's talk about the Omni Station or the base station, as it's pretty identical to the S1 Pro, where it will wash the roller mop and then dry it. It has onboard soap, so it can mix the soap into your clean water. Unfortunately, it's still that proprietary bottle where you can't add your own solution unless you jerry rig it somehow. And it has the bag where it'll suck all the dust and debris from the vacuum into the Omni Station, then you replace the bag every couple months. Plus, like the S1 Pro, it'll add ozone electrolysis for sterilization, and you can see it adding this to the water. It's just a bunch of little bubbles that they say is for antibacteria while it's mopping. And then it will automatically dry that mop with heat. That way it doesn't start stinking or growing bacteria. All in all, this has a lot of potential to be a great smart vacuum if they can fix the spatial awareness issue. I'd like to see the new hardware changes that they've made since the S1 Pro, but unfortunately they still have some software issues they need to work out, some bugs they need to work out. For instance, in Matter, it does work with Matter in my main platform of Apple Home. It's really nice that you can select individual rooms, but when you select vacuum and mop, it sends out the vacuum in vacuum only mode. And talk about modes, there is no mop only mode. In 2025, we gotta have a mop only mode where we're shutting down the vacuum suction so we can pick up liquids into the dirty water bin. And you don't want to suck up liquid into the dustbin, and you can't do that because there's no mop only mode. So it'd be really nice if they added that. In addition, it does have that spatial awareness issues where it doesn't get close enough to the baseboards to even use the extendable mop or the extendable brush arm because it doesn't know how close it is or how high things are or how low things are, and it does back into things all the time. And they really need to work on this spatial awareness and really get those sensors dialed in. And once they do, this will be an awesome smart vacuum for you. Definitely check out the description or pinned comment down below, so I'll let you know when these issues have been fixed. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, smash that like button. Truly appreciate it. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Definitely helps out this channel. And if you guys have any questions, let me know down in the comments below. I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.
Start collecting dust.